Hello. Today we're talking about how to think outside the box and how to solve problems in this new world that we live in. I've been thinking a lot about a television show from the late 80s, early 90s called MacGyver. I believe it's in the dictionary now as a verb. You MacGyver things. What's cool about him is that he was great at science, and he was also a secret agent for a special clandestine group called the Phoenix Foundation. And he didn't really like guns. What was amazing about him is that he would look at ordinary, mundane things, and he was always able to figure out a way to solve any problem that would come up using whatever he found around him. He was a very inventive person and very positive, and he had really good sensory perception. I think that it might be good to consider people that have a good MacGyver approach to the universe. And I want to tell you about a couple of those people today, as well as encourage you to think about the problems that may come up during this period from a different angle. The business idea of thinking outside the box. So, have you ever considered drawing a picture of the problem as opposed to saying it with words, because that engages the different part of your brain if you draw a picture of it and then you have to explain it. A lot of times in groups and teams they'll do that. Everybody will draw their picture of the problem and then have to explain it to each other, and in doing so they figure out new ways of doing things. Another thing you might want to do is do it backwards or look at it from a different angle. Have you ever done the question where you have 9 dots? It looks like you're going to play tic-tac-toe, but you're only allowed to connect all the dots with a continuous line, 4 lines tops. The only way it works is if you go outside the box. Give it a try. It's actually a pretty cool experiment. One of the people I want to talk to you about today is so outside the box that it's almost difficult to explain her work. Her name is Neri Oxman. She's from Israel originally, and she runs the design lab at MIT. Her work is a combination of all her skill sets, and her skill sets include a degree in medicine and a degree in architecture. She uses nature as her model and her inspiration. So a lot of her work is a combination of using 3D printing and biology and natural processes, but using them in the way a designer thinks, like how to make something new. And sometimes the things that she's invented so far and her team have invented so far are so outside the box that they can only be an art project right now, but historically, that's sometimes how you get amazing inventions. So you never know what an invention is going to do, and you never know what a new idea or a new way of looking at things is going to do. Sometimes people suggest learning a new language or reading a kind of book that you've never read before, or studying an industry that you have nothing to do with to get a different perspective. Because often we fight the same problems in our lives, regardless of how we approach them. So I encourage you to think about this stuff, and I want to show you more of Neri Oxman's and her team's inventions.
Living things are not chiseled. They grow. And in our smallest units of life, our cells, we carry all the information that's required for every other cell to function and to replicate.
Imagine you buy a bouquet of flowers, and you bring them home and you put them in a vase. But this is no ordinary vase. The vase helps fertilize the flowers, it changes the colors as they decay, and helps them decompose once their time is up. This is the world architect and designer Neri Oxman is creating. A professor at MIT's Media Lab, Neri Oxman's discovery is so cutting edge that it has spawned an entirely new field. Material ecology is a combination of computational design, digital manufacturing, and synthetic biology. It not only borrows design elements from nature, but it manipulates nature itself, producing such marvels as biodegradable tools and materials that react to light and heat. Products, Oxman says, that are informed by the aesthetic wisdom of nature. Oxman was born and raised in Haifa, in northern Israel, to two prominent architects. But it was Oxman's grandmother, an avid gardener, who inspired her love of nature.
What would design be like if objects were made of a single part? Would we return to a better stage of creation?
Oxman served nearly 3 years in the Israeli Air Force before enrolling in Technion, Israel's finest technological college. In 2010, she earned her doctorate from MIT. She then became a tenured professor there. Oxman has won a Cooper Hewitt Design Award, designed a mask for Bjork based on the Icelandic singer's facial tissue, and befriended Brad Pitt. She helped produce a 3D printed skirt and cape that utilized materials that were both hard and soft so it would act and feel like a second skin. And she created an acoustic shades lounge that was digitally printed, and it absorbs the sound and creates a womb-like effect. Her work is now part of the permanent collections at both the Museum of Modern Art and the Smithsonian. Architectural Digest declared 2019 the year of Neri Oxman.
Assembly lines have dictated a world made of parts, framing the imagination of designers and architects who have been trained to think about their objects as assemblies of discrete parts with distinct functions. But you don't find homogeneous material assemblies in nature.
Architects and designers traditionally build their objects. In Neri Oxman's world, objects are grown.
Another person I really like to talk about is an architect. He's sort of a star-architect. You may have heard me talk about him before, named Bjarke Ingels from Denmark. What's great about him is he doesn't accept the paradigms, the rules that say, oh, if you're going to do something that's environmentally good, it can't be fun, and it has to be more expensive than everything else. What's great about his work is it's inventive, it's artistic, it has many uses. For example, he created a waste treatment plant in Denmark, which is flat as a pancake, but he made it in a shape that works like an alpine ski run, so people are now able to go skiing in downtown Denmark. And it's the cleanest plant in the world for what it does. There's also an ice skating rink.
We're in Copenhagen, Denmark, and behind me is Copenhill. It's a waste-to-energy plant which turns the city's rubbish into heat and power. But one of the most remarkable things about it is that there's a dry ski slope on the roof. It's been designed by Danish architects Bjarke Ingels Group, or BIG, and the whole point is to create a dual use for the building and to make one of the least desirable places in the city, the place your rubbish goes, into somewhere people actually want to visit.
My name is Bjarke Ingels. I'm the founder and creative director of Bjarke Ingels Group, or BIG, and we are standing in Copenhagen on this human-made mountain where you can hike, you can ski. What's even more unique about Copenhill is that it's the cleanest waste-to-energy power plant in the world.
He made an apartment complex called the Mountain, and it's got pictures of Nepal on the walls, and there's hiking trails, and the parking is all underneath, so the heat from the cars helps heat the building in Denmark, which is a kind of important thing. And there's a park all around where the parking lot would be. Anyway, he's quite the architect, and Nori's quite the designer. And I hope that you start looking for inspiration in odd places. Look for those people who think outside the box.